Imagine a legendary cinematic heartthrob whose youth was spent paraded in feminine attire, while being strictly compelled to go by the name Louise. Consider the charming icon who served as a brave soldier in Korea, survived being strafed by friendly jets, and subsequently spent 32 years seeking formal validation. James Scott Bumgarner entered the world on April 7th, 1928, in a small town near Norman, Oklahoma. He grew up motherless and endured an abusive childhood, having no reason to expect his luck would ever turn around. No one expected a shy kid from the Soon estate to anchor two legendary TV hits. He traded lines with Steve McQueen in a massive blockbuster. Then, he hopped behind the wheel of Formula One cars, hitting speeds that made seasoned pros nervous. Twice, he dragged Tinseltown's biggest power players into court and emerged victorious, reshaping legal protections for future stars. Later, at 76, he left audiences everywhere sobbing with his performance in the ultimate romance movie. If that trademark Maverick smirk or that gold Firebird flying down the coast rings a bell, you recognize his impact, but trust me, the stuff you haven't heard is even wilder. Let's look at 10 times his actual reality was crazier than his scripts. Starting with number 1, the time a lucky parking spot redefined his entire future in show business. Around 1953, a young man named James Bumgarner was roaming Los Angeles in a beat-up old van. At 25, the man was just a carpet layer with zero drive or representation. He had already cycled through over 50 unique gigs, working in oil fields, driving trucks, and even guarding pools. He once tried his hand at a chick hatchery but warned everyone that it was an absolutely miserable way to earn a living. Although he was a decorated Korean War veteran with 2 Purple Hearts, his future remained a total mystery. That is until he noticed a sign for Paul Gregory and Associates. He and Gregory were old friends from the days when he was pumping gas and Gregory worked a soda fountain nearby. Right then, a car vacated a spot directly in front of the office. On a total whim, he parked his van, and Gregory eventually talked him into giving the acting world a shot. Garner was cast as a mute Navy officer, joining Henry Fonda's touring cast of the Caine Mutiny Court Martial. By January 1954, it hit Broadway for a 415-show run. Standing in the wings every evening, he carefully studied how Fonda moved and used silence to command the stage. Later, he confessed to basically ripping off Fonda's entire performance style. Warner Brothers signed him for $150 weekly, then unilaterally chopped Bumgarner down to Garner. Within 3 years, that unknown carpet installer became a massive television star, all thanks to a parking spot on La Cienega Boulevard. Second up, James Garner, the rebel who crushed Ed Sullivan. Maverick debuted on ABC on September 22, 1957 at 7:30 Sunday night. They threw it right against heavyweights like Ed Sullivan and Steve Allen. Roy Huggins created a cowboy hero who was actually a yellow-bellied coward. Brett Maverick was a card shark who prioritized fleeing over fighting. He just spouted old-timey wisdom from his pappy. He played the role with a sense of playful mischief and a relaxed charm that audiences found completely refreshing. Garner claimed he was just being himself because both he and his character were fundamentally lazy men. This production leaned into satire, roasting Gunsmoke, imitating Dragnet, and poking fun at Bonanza. A simple cue from writer Marion Hargrove shifted the show's entire vibe. Maverick gives him a squinty, suspicious look. The rest of the writers soon caught on. What began as a standard drama became the first true Western comedy on national television. By the 1958 season, the show was the 6th most popular program in the entire country. Ratings for The Ed Sullivan Show plummeted as Maverick dominated the Sunday night lineup. How much did Garner make for leading the nation's 6th-ranked show? Just $1,750 every week. Actors on much smaller programs were earning 50 times that pay. With no profit sharing, he felt like a side of meat being smoked and sold for the benefit of the studio bosses. Garner was generating massive profits for the studio, yet Warner Brothers treated him like a common hand. At number 3 is James Garner, the actual driver that Hollywood struggled to mimic. Most actors just pretend to drive, but James Garner was a legitimate force behind the wheel. During 1966, coach Bob Bondurant pushed the actors past 150 miles per hour. Most were terrified, hitting brakes early and returning to the pits completely shaken. After a high-speed run, he came back beaming with joy, leading his instructor to name him the perfect choice. Garner handled every mile of the high-speed work personally. Standing 6'3", he was physically too large for the Formula One car. They removed the seat, leaving him on the frame with a towel. He shed 20 pounds to fit and performed a fire stunt himself. The film won 3 Oscars and made $20.8 million, but he never quit the racing world. He didn't stop there, eventually founding a professional racing team and taking second place in the intense Baja 1000. Even after rolling his vehicle right before the checkers, he snatched the Riverside Grand Prix. His lead was just that massive. He also handled the Indy 500 pace car thrice. Bondurant's verdict was clear. Garner belonged on a Formula One squad. This Oklahoma carpet layer possessed pro-level talent, yet he viewed racing as a mere pastime. Fourth up, James Garner, hit by his own unit during 1950. As Oklahoma's premier draftee for the conflict, he joined the 5th Regimental Combat Team. 14 months of frontline duty left him twice wounded. He earned his first Purple Heart barely 48 hours into his tour. Mortar shards shredded his hand and face. Lesser men would have begged for a discharge. His second injury on the battlefield tells an even crazier story about the chaos of war. American planes accidentally lit up his unit on April 21, 1951. Scrambling for cover, he didn't quite clear the blast. Shrapnel caught him right in the rear. He later joked on national television that his backside was just too large of a target to miss. Imagine being hit by your own military and then turning the whole experience into a funny story for the world. Due to a clerical error, he didn't actually receive that second medal until 32 years later, in 1983. The clerical error stayed hidden until a televised interview prompted a call to the Pentagon. 32 years later, Garner joked that he preferred receiving the medal while still breathing. Here is another tale from Korea. On watch one night, Garner caught a faint whiff of garlic. He absolutely loathed the scent, as he was incredibly sensitive to it. He knew the enemy troops lived on fish and garlic. He heard voices nearby and quickly alerted his fellow soldiers. His squad stopped a scouting party before they could strike. Garner's nose very likely saved his entire platoon that night. The records of his combat unit are well known, and considering everything he survived, his nose deserves a military honor. He earned 2 Purple Hearts and a Combat Infantryman badge. He also received various service medals and presidential unit citations from both nations. His view of war never softened. He refused to glorify violence on screen, as a man who had been shot and knew the truth. At number 5, the lawsuit that changed Hollywood. In the middle of January 1960, the Writers Guild went on strike. Warner Brothers had already finished every episode for the season. There was absolutely no delay in their production schedule. Yet in March, the studio claimed a crisis and stopped Garner's pay, citing a casualty period that did not exist. Garner fought back immediately, demanding his wages and ending his contract. It was a bold move for an actor to dump a major studio. The studio sued him in 1960, but he sued right back. That is when the judge discovered their secret. Warner Brothers had 14 writers working during the strike under a fake name that literally meant Warner Brothers in Spanish. They pretended to be shut down while staff worked under a pseudonym that was just their own company name. Jack Warner took the stand himself, admitting they'd missed the June 15th deadline before and still hit the September premiere. The judge eventually ruled the studio had been acting with total dishonesty. Garner walked away victorious when the California Court of Appeal upheld the decision in 1961. This precedent stopped studios from using act of God excuses unless production truly stopped. A top entertainment lawyer later noted that this case still sets the legal standard today. Garner said he felt like meat in a smokehouse. He wanted to be responsible for his own successes or failures. Following a short period on the blacklist, William Wyler cast him with Audrey Hepburn in The Children's Hour. James was finally free, though his courtroom battles were just beginning. For number 6, James Garner got married in just 14 days and never looked back. It started on August 1st, 1956, at a campaign barbecue where he spotted Lois Clark across the crowd. He called it love at first sight. They went out for dinner every single night for 14 days straight. Just 2 weeks after their first date, the pair swapped vows in a Beverly Hills municipal building. James nearly went broke financing their $77 getaway. Standing 6-3 against her 4-8, they faced heavy friction from his family over their mixed religious backgrounds. They defied a Hollywood culture where divorce happened twice as often. Garner believed their differences made them stronger. He adopted Lois's daughter, Kimberly, who was recovering from polio at the time. He claimed her child as his own immediately, later welcoming Gigi in January of 1958. 2 temporary splits occurred only because his starring role completely exhausted him. Garner was blunt about it, saying the show was 99% of the problem and he needed to clear his head. They patched things up by 1981 and remained inseparable for 58 years. Their journey survived 50 movies and numerous health crises, all following that cheap honeymoon. Regarding marriage, Garner joked it was like the army. Everyone complains, yet a huge number of people sign up again. Number 7. Garner ignored an FBI warning to march for civil rights. He attended the March on Washington in 1963. Just before the big day, federal agents contacted every A-list celebrity with a chilling warning that they would be on their own. James Garner didn't flinch. He showed up regardless. Cameras caught him interlacing fingers with actress Diahann Carroll, a radical act in 1963 when an interracial image like that could instantly end a white man's professional life. He snagged a seat right near the front for the legendary I Have a Dream address, marching with icons like Poitier, Newman, and Sammy Davis Jr. Garner was an unapologetic card-carrying liberal, and he was damn proud of it. When the GOP tried to draft him in 1962, he told them he was a Democrat, but they didn't care. He still refused. Regarding a 1990 run for governor, he joked that unlike his colleagues who pivoted, he actually knew his limits. He served on the Actors Union Board and supported Native American rights groups. He was the main financial supporter for sculptor Richmond Bath for over a decade. James Garner was a genuine hero, even when the FBI watched his every move. At number 8, we see how the grueling work on the Rockford files destroyed his physical health. Born from the chaos of the 1973 writers' strike, Roy Huggins, the genius behind Maverick, plucked a name from a phone book and birthed a legend. Seeing a detective version of Maverick in the pages, Huggins immediately pitched the part to Garner. The show hit screens September 13th, 1974, running for 6 seasons and 123 episodes. Jim Rockford redefined the small screen as a former convict operating out of a beachside trailer. He kept his weapon in a cookie jar and billed clients $200 a day. Every episode started with a message from his answering machine, usually from someone he owed money to. Garner personally selected the custom gold finish for his signature Pontiac Firebird. His performance earned him an Emmy in 1977, followed by the series winning top drama honors in 1978. Writer David Chase wrote many episodes that influenced The Sopranos, but the work was killing Garner. Handling his own action meant mastering high-speed J-turns at 35 miles per hour. This commitment led to nearly 7 knee surgeries before the show ended. He had a surgery every summer for 5 years. He even fell downstairs and ruined a recently repaired knee. His doctor told him to rest, but the studio sued him for missing work. He developed an ulcer by 1979. The physical damage finally ended the show. It was cancelled mid-season when his doctors forced him to stop. By 2000, he'd undergone double knee replacements. No one pressured him into those stunts. He simply felt that if Rockford was behind the wheel, it had to be Garner himself. He sacrificed his body for the series, yet the studio tried to shortchange him. Number 9. James Garner's $14 million battle against shady bookkeeping. On October 11, 1983, he hit Universal with a $22.5 million lawsuit. His firm, Cherokee Productions, was owed 37.5% of the net gains. The series had pulled in a massive $119 million in total revenue. Garner had only seen $250,000. He took his case to 60 Minutes and broadcast the production's hidden ledgers to the entire country. Universal bought the same vehicle from its own inventory 4 times, charging a different price every time to the Rockford budget. That was the moment Garner coined a term Hollywood would never escape: creative accounting. He walked away from a $6 million settlement offer in April 1989. The dispute eventually settled for a rumored $14 million. He dragged Universal back to court in 1998 for $2.2 million in unpaid royalties. His big return: 8 reunion films on CBS between 1994 and 1999. The debut, I Still Love LA, was the top-rated TV movie of that season. With an 18.5 rating and 17.6 million viewers, America was still hooked. Most short-changed actors just complain at dinner parties. Garner scrutinized the books, hired the lawyers, went on national TV, and walked away with $14 million. He noted that while he wasn't looking for a fight, he'd strike back if robbed. The precedent he set, allowing artists to audit the books, protects every creator signed to a profit-sharing deal today. Number 10. James Garner, the boy they called Louise. This is the origin story for everything that followed. Norman, Oklahoma, in the early 1930s. His father Weldon ran a rural hardware store without any indoor plumbing. His mother Mildred, who was half Cherokee, passed away when he was only 4 or 5. The three brothers were separated and shipped off to live with various relatives. Their family business ended up burning to the ground. Garner later suspected in his autobiography that his father torched it for the insurance money. Then Weldon married a woman named Wilma, whom the boys nicknamed Red. She used whatever was within reach to beat the three brothers. Her cruelest act against young James was forcing him to wear a dress in public while making the townspeople call him Louise. Imagine a Depression-era boy in a girl's dress walking down a dirt road while adults mock him with a name he didn't choose, all because of one woman's twisted discipline. Garner wrote that today she'd be behind bars, but back then no one stepped in to save that boy or tell him he mattered. By 14, James Bumgarner reached his breaking point. The moment he gripped her throat and forced the struggle to end, she fled that home forever. His brother Jack didn't mince words, calling her a total disaster, so at 16, James forged his papers to join the Merchant Marine. Escaping Norman meant leaving that dress and the name Louise behind, which allowed a scarred kid to eventually transform into a legendary Hollywood charmer. He earned multiple Emmys and an Oscar nomination for 1985's Murphy's Romance, a role that Columbia Pictures initially refused him until Sally Field threatened to quit the production. Director Martin Ritt noted his long-overlooked talent, as the movie went on to rake in over $30 million at the box office. Field raved about their legendary on-screen kiss, proving the charm of a man who once physically decked a heckler for loudly disrupting his partner's golf game. He managed a 400-acre vineyard where he produced a Chardonnay known as Chateau Gaillard. As a 50-year marijuana enthusiast, he publicly advocated for its legality before celebrating his 68th birthday by shooting a 67 on the golf course, beating his own age by a stroke. After passing away at 86 in July 2014 from a heart attack, he left behind a grieving Sally Field, who confessed she truly worshipped Jimmy as a rare soul. He was described as a pure diamond who paved the way for other Hollywood icons like Steve McQueen and Clint Eastwood. When Morgan Freeman beat him for a SAG Award in 2005, the winner honored the legend by leading the entire audience in the Maverick theme song. Garner humbly questioned if he truly earned the honors, but asked the crowd to indulge his performance for just one more night. A 10-foot bronze statue of Brett Maverick now stands in Norman, Oklahoma, honoring the man who once walked those same streets as a boy in a dress, using a name that was not his own. They once called him Louise, but he eventually answered to no one. So please share your favorite moment from his life, and remember to hit that subscribe button. We tell the stories that Hollywood often forgets because they deserve to be remembered, and I will see you in our next video.